Am I audible, Yashwant?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So can you modify this program, Yashwant?
हाँ सर.
See, uh, when I run the program, it is asking me to enter the rows and columns of matrix A. So you are entering these rows and columns for what purpose? For addition or multiplication? The user is unable to understand. Right?
Yes sir.
User must be in a position to understand that he is going to perform multiplication first and then addition next, like that.
हाँ हाँ.
Better to mention the message in such a way that enter the rows and columns of matrix A, first matrix to perform multiplication. Or before this, you display sheet. Then after that, enter the rows and columns of first matrix, any second matrix, any display చేయొచ్చు. Or else alternatively, here in the main method, after creating the object, you can give a menu option for the user. One for addition, two for multiplication. If the user chooses one, then use an if statement and use if the choice is equal to 1, you can call multiplication method. Choice is equal to 2, you can call addition method. Like this you can do. Example, which I'll create a variable here. I choose one, then he'll understand, right? Now in this case that he is performing. He has chosen one, so he need to perform. He need to enter two columns and rows and columns of matrix A for performing addition. So he'll understand that he need to give both the matrices, rows and columns same. Again, if I want to run it for multiplication, again I'll run it. I'll choose option 2. So this is how you need to write the program. The user must be in a position to understand clearly what uh, he is supposed to do when he runs the program. Okay.
Okay, sir.
So what about the paperwork? Have you done that paperwork?
Yes, sir. I had done the paperwork also.
So you have understood, right? The logic.
Yes, sir.
Fine. So today we are going to learn a new topic. So now that we completed one-dimensional arrays and two-dimensional arrays, you can also use three-dimensional, four dimensions, but it is not suggested. As you increase the dimensions, the complexity of the program increases, and the complexity of creating arrays also increases. So we have seen how to create two-dimensional arrays with a different number of columns in each row. That one we have seen, and with the same number of columns in each row also we have seen. Furthermore, if you want to create a program in such a way that you want to make this array dynamic, read some before you declare this array, you can create the sizes m and pq sizes, right, like this, right? So you have created these variables m and pq. You can do this before you declare these arrays, and then use m n here, similarly pq here, like that also you can do. So you can practice in that way also if you want, so that the size of the array will be predefined depending on whatever input you give. If you give the input mn size in that way, so only that much size will be created automatically. Here what we are doing is we are creating a fixed size of 5 pi. So we are confining ourselves to the number of rows and columns to be given as only maximum 5, right? So if we, instead of that, if you declare these variables m and pq before the creation of arrays and read the values of m and pq, and instead of using 5 5 here, for the first matrix you give m and n. For second matrix you give pq. Dynamically the size of the arrays will be changing each time when you run the program. Okay, so that way you can do. You can practice some other programs also for finding the trace of a matrix, finding some of all the elements of a matrix, and finding only the sum of diagonal elements of a matrix, and even transposing a matrix. You know what is the transpose of a matrix, right? So the rows and columns will be interchanged. When you have a row, say 1, 2, 3, so instead of writing those 1, 2, 3 elements in a row, you have to write it in columns. That 1, 2, 3 row will change to a column. So you'll have 1, 4, 7 in the row instead of 1, 2, 3. Okay, so you can write the program for that one also. So by writing those programs, what will happen is your logical thinking will improve. You try to do these programs for next class,
Okay, sir, I will try to do.
right? Today, let us go to a new topic: packages in Java. So till now, we have been using some predefined packages in a program. For example, we have used in the previous program java.util package. Right? So, what are these packages? Why we need these packages? I'll just give introduction today, and then in the next class, I'll show you how to create packages and how to run the program. So, what is the necessity of a package in Java? Generally, a package is used to solve the namespace collision. We will come across a problem called namespace collision. See, now all your programs, I am saving them in D drive in a folder called Java Y, right? So now in some of these files, you may have two different classes defined with same name. So for example, let us take this class. You have a class called second here, right? What is the file name in which this class second is consisting? There is a class called factarm, file name called factarm, right? So when you compile this, the second dot class file will be generated here, right? So in the same way, in the current program for matrix multiplication or some other program also, you must have created another class called second. So two programs are containing same class, that is the name of the class is same, and the name of the class is second, or it may be first or second, whatever it is. So that in that way you may create multiple programs. In each of those program you may have a class with same name. So in program 1 you have class called first, and in program 2 also you have another class called first. So the names of these two classes are same, but they are stored in a different file, right? But both these programs are saved in the same folder or directory. Then what will happen when the program is compiled? In the first program also you will have a first dot class file generated, because dot class file will be generated individually for all the classes that you define in your program. So first dot class file will be generated in program 1 and first dot class will be generated in program 2 also. So can you have the same file with same name and extension in a single folder? If you try to do so, your system will not allow. If it allows, what it does is it will replace the old file with the new file. Then what will happen? The dot class file generated for the first program will not be available for you. Whichever program you have executed last, in that program, whatever dot class file is generated with that name first dot class, that will be available. So later, when if you want to execute the first program, it will not work, right? So this problem is called as namespace collision. Even uh, if you want to take simple general example without talking related to Java, so in D drive in my computer, I am now currently available in D drive. So these are the folders that I have in this D drive: CP, Harita, Java, Java S, Java Y, new folder, Node.js, Python, Reglog, Srujan, Test. So these are the folders I have already here. So now if I try to create a new folder with same name, say test. Okay. So what is it going to say? The destination already contains a folder named test. If any files have the same names, you will be asked if you want to replace those files. Do you still want to merge this folder test with this one new folder? If you say yes, then only one file will be created. That all the folders that are created earlier, all the files that are there in the earlier folder will be merged into a single folder. If I say no, then the folder will not be created with that name test. Instead, it will be created with new folder 2. So why this is because uh, you cannot have two or more folders in a single root directory or any other subdirectory with the same name. Just like when you have two students in a class with same name, with both first name as well as last name, so it will be difficult. There is a namespace collision. So when someone refers to that person's name, both will be responding, right? So they'll not understand whom the actual person who is referring their name is calling, whether he's calling the person one or person two, because their both names are same. They'll be in a dilemma. They'll have a confusion whom he's calling, right? But if I refer to them with their roll number will be unique. Even though their names are same, their roll numbers will be unique. No two students will have same roll number, right? So easily we can identify them. So that means what? To identify a person uniquely, we need to give their names either uniquely, or you must refer them with some other thing called roll number or something. But here in Java, we don't have uh, uh, something else to refer to a class name. A class will have only one entity, that is name. We cannot have no roll number just like a student has. Right? So the only possibility that we can identify uniquely a class in your Java program is class name. So when you are giving this class name, we must see that these class names are given uniquely, right? So if you don't want to give them uniquely, put them in different folders. Don't save them. Don't save all the programs in a same folder. So till now we have been saving all these files in the same folder called Java Y. So now we are getting this conflict. Instead, if you create another folder beside this one and store those programs in that folder, then you will not get any problem, because even though the file names, the class names are same, these classes are put in different folders, right? So that's why you'll not have any problem. So creating of this folder is nothing but called as a package in Java. So this problem is solved in Java with the concept called package, right? And that is, and the problem that we are facing, we call it as namespace collision. Why namespace collision means, if you take all the names of all the classes that you have defined in all the programs in a single folder, we can consider it as a space or set. So a set contains elements which are unique. So there will not be any repetition in a mathematical set. You know what is a set in mathematics, right? So if you create a set, uh, all the elements in that set will be unique. there will not be any repetition. For example, set of all natural numbers, set of all natural numbers, set of all whole numbers, set of integers. So when you say set of integers, so these integers will have say 0, comma 1, comma 2, comma 3, so on like that, right? So will there be any repetition of 0 or 1 multiple times in this set? You will not have that multiple repetition of all those values, right? So all these set values are unique. Will not be any repetition. So we can call a set of all the names of classes as a set, or you can call it as with another term called space, namespace. So namespace is nothing but a set of all the names of classes that you give in your Java programs. Right? So when you have this namespace collision problem, what do you mean by this namespace collision problem? You are saving all your files in a single folder, and in two different files you have two different classes with same name. So then you will come across a problem called namespace collision. So to avoid this namespace collision, Java comes up with a solution called packages. Okay? So you need to create a package in your Java program, and then you can create multiple different classes with same names in different files. Okay. So before going into implementation of this packages, how to create packages in Java program, we need to know about something called access specifiers. So what are these access specifiers? Access specifiers in Java programming allows you or restricts the user in accessing the members of a class from either within the class or outside the class. So till now in all our programs, we were using a public keyword for the main method, right? So we are defining the main method as public. So what do you mean by this public? And apart from this public, there are other keywords called, uh, let me put them here, public, private, then another one called protect. So there are three keywords like this: public, private, protected. Out of these, we have been using only public, that too with the main method only. We didn't use this keyword with any other program. Okay. So what is the meaning of this public or private or protect? So these keywords, when they are used as qualifiers for a class name or a method name or a variable name in front of the method declaration or class declaration or variable declaration, they'll impose some restrictions for the user to use those variables or classes or methods. So what is that restriction? For example, let us go to this main method. So why this main method is given as public means, we say now by writing this public keyword here, the main method is qualified as public. So when it is qualified as public, it will have no restrictions. That means you can call this main method from anywhere in the program. You can call this main method from inside the program, from some other class. Even you can call this main method from addition method also. You can call the main method here. You can use the class name add mul dot main, because main is a static method. You don't require an object to call it. So you can use the name of the class add mul dot main. And you can call this from another class method called addition here, right? So in that way, you can call this main method within the program and also from outside the program. So I told you, when you run your Java program, automatically what happens is the main method will be called. And from where are we calling the main method? From outside the program. So if you want to access anything, anything in the sense, any variable of a class or a method of a class from within the class or from outside the class, from anywhere in your program or even from outside the program, we need to use the keyword public to qualify that particular member of the class, whether it is method or a variable, whatever it is. Right? So that is the reason we have been using this public keyword for the main method till now. So we have discussed about static, void, and main. Main is the name of the method, void is the return type of the method, and static is a method which can be called without the necessity of creating an object for the class. Because we can't create an object for a class outside the Java program, so that's why we have been using static keyword here. And when we run the program also, how are we running the program? We are running the program by mentioning the class name. When you mention the class name, automatically the static method main will be called first. Okay, so that is the reason we were using static keyword. But coming to public, what is the reason for using public? We didn't discuss till now. And I also told you that we'll discuss about this public keyword later when we discuss some other topic. And that some other topic is nothing but access specifiers. Okay, so these access specifiers, what they do is they'll they'll tell the user that what you can do with a member of a class, whether you can access the member anywhere from the program, or is there any restriction that you can use it only within this class or within that class. That will be specified by the access specifiers, public, private, and protected. So when you give public, this will not have any restriction. You can access members of a class qualified as public from anywhere, in the program, or even outside the program also. Right? And coming to private, you can access members of a class qualified as private only from within the class. You can access the private members only from within the class. You cannot access them outside the class even by creating an object also. Okay. Then coming to protected, you can access members of a class qualified as protected from within the uh, anywhere within the same package. And also subclass of other package. Okay, so all these topics are interrelated. So these access specifiers, packages in Java, and then another concept called inheritance. Inheritance in Java. So these three topics are interlinked with each other. So we cannot discuss these topics separately. We need to discuss them collectively. So what I want to do is, first I want to let you know about a simple inheritance. What is inheritance? I'll just give you introduction and then explain these access specifiers. Okay, and once you understood this access specifier concept, we'll continue with inheritance concept, and after inheritance concept is completed, then we'll go for packages. Okay, because these three topics are interrelated with each other. So generally what people do is, first they'll introduce access specifiers, and then they go for inheritance, and then After that, they learn packages. So this is the order in which normally people learn. But we cannot completely make any student understand without dealing with the concept of inheritance. To some extent, you can understand this concept. So, for example, if you take the public keyword, you might have understood what is the meaning of this public. When you use a public keyword with a class or a method or a variable, what does it indicate? You can access the member of a class which are qualified as public. Members of a class, in the sense, it can be instance variable or method, right? So you can access them anywhere in the program. So that is the uh, meaning of this public access specifier. And coming to private, you can access the members of a class qualified as private only from within the class. That means you can access these members, either methods or variables that are declared as private in a class, only from within the class. If you go to other class in the same program and you try to create an object for that class and try to call those methods or invoke the variables of that class which are qualified as private, you will get a compilation error. It will not accept, right? So that is a restriction that will be imposed on private members. But coming to protected, even I told you what is this. You can access members of a class qualified as protected from anywhere within the same package. So you will not understand what do you mean by same package and also subclass of other package. What is this subclass of other package? So if you have to understand this third concept, that is protected, then you need to know first what is inheritance. Okay, so then only you'll understand the meaning of this protected access specifier. And apart from this three access specifiers, we also have another access specifier called default access. But for this default access, we don't have any keyword. For public access, you have the keyword public. For private access, you have private keyword. For protected access, you have a keyword protected. But coming to the default access, we don't have any keyword. And that is the reason till now, for any class, we didn't use the keyword public or private or protected. You can use the public keyword here for the class, public class second. You can define a class to be public. Similarly, you can define a class to be private, but this is not allowed. You cannot create a class as private. So you can create as a protected. This you can create. But we didn't use any of the keywords here. We didn't even mention the public. If you don't mention any keyword, that will become nothing but default access. Okay. So what is default access means? Default access will allow you to access the members of a class from within the same package, in all the classes within the same package. But when you go to a different package, there you will not be allowed to access the members of this class. So that is what we have been doing. Okay. So first let us discuss about inheritance concept, then go for public, private, protected and all these things. Okay. So now let me put in front of you the concept of inheritance. So what is inheritance? Because we don't have much time to completely discuss about this inheritance, I'll just introduce you this topic, inheritance, and implementing programs on this concept will start on Monday. Okay, so inheritance is nothing but the property. I'll give you the definition first. The property by which one class inherits the members of another class as its members. Called as inheritance in Java or any programming language, in any object-oriented programming language. Inheritance is one of the object-oriented programming concepts. So if you are learning an object-oriented programming language, you'll not learn it without the concept of inheritance. If there is no inheritance, then you can say that the programming language is not an object oriented programming. So do you find this concept of inheritance in C programming? You don't find it, right? So that is why it is not an object oriented programming language. So examples of object oriented programming language include, as we discussed at the beginning, C++, Java, even Python also uses object oriented programming, though Python is a multi paradigm programming language. It uses both the procedure oriented as well as uh, object oriented programming constructs. You can write Python programs without using object oriented programming or with using object oriented programming also, right? So let us not discuss about other languages. Let us come back to Java. So what is this inheritance and what will happen? So with this inheritance concept, you can inherit the members of another class as its uh, another class member. Say there are two classes, class A and class B. There are two classes, class A and class B. So now you know that A will have its own members. So when you say members, what do you mean by members? All the instance variables and methods together, we call them as members. So if I inherit these members to class B, that means inherit means what? If I make all the members of class A also the members of class B, same members are defined in class B also, we can say that B is inherited with the members of A. Just like in our daily life, in our normal general life, in human beings or any other living beings, we cannot recognize this in another living beings, but human beings. Generally, children will possess or inherit the features of parents, right? So when you look at a person, you can to father and son, you can say he is exactly replicating some of the features of his father or mother, or you will say like this, right? So what do you mean by that? Uh, the children are inherited with the features of some of the features, if not all the features, some of the features of parents. So from that concept in natural inheritance concept, this concept of inheritance in programming is derived. So what is this inheritance in Java programming is you can create a class called A, and not just A, anything, any class. And from that first class, you can inherit the members of that class to another class. So what will happen when you do so is automatically all the members of class A will also become members of class B. You need not define the members again in B. Simply you have to use a keyword called extends keyword. So how to inherit members of one class to another class in Java is, for that you have a syntax. Say for example you have class A defined like this. Then you want to inherit all the members of class A to class B. Then what you need to do is, after you define class B, this after B, you have to use a keyword called extends. So from which class you are deriving all the or inheriting all the members from A. So that class name A you have to mention here. Then what will happen is automatically all the members of class A will also be made members of class B. If you define say two instance variables A comma B here, so they'll also become now members of class B. Okay, and if you define method say void read here, you define a method void read, then this read method will also become a member of class B. Then somewhere in class C, if you create the main method, so here you can create, if you want to create an object for A, you can create and call this method read or access the variables A, B. Similarly, you can do that even with B also. Instead of creating A, you can create a object for class B. Okay. So for this one, I'm going to create object B1 is equal to new class B like this. I can create a object for class B instead of class A, and using object B1, I can call the read method like this. Okay. And apart from the properties inherited or the methods and variables inherited from class A to class B, this class B can have its own exclusive members like int C. You can declare C like this, and you can declare a method like this display. Right. So just like children will have features of their parents as well as their own unique features also, which are not there in their parents. So the children will acquire the features of parents as well as they'll have their own features which are not present in their parents. In the same way, class B, even though it is extending class A, which means that B is acquiring all the members of class A automatically. Even then also B can have its own features. That means its own members like C. C is now only a member of class B, and display is also only a member of class B. So these are exclusive members of class B. So apart from these two members, it will also have these A, B, and read methods also. So you can call both read method, you can access A value, B value, and you can access C value, and you can access the display method also using object of class B. But if you create an object of class A, if you create an object for class A, you can only access these members A, B, and read method. You cannot access C and display method, right? Now, in this scenario, A is called as a superclass, right? So the parent class is called as the superclass, and the child class B, it is called as the subclass. B is called as subclass and A is called as a superclass. So we'll be using these terms, subclass and superclass, to refer to parent class and child class. So subclass will have more features than the superclass. Understood the concept? Hello?
Yes, sir. Hello.
Your audio. So if you understood, we'll go ahead with writing programs on this inheritance concept from Monday onwards. So I'll show you how to create these programs and how to run these programs and all. What will happen when you run the programs, and there will be several issues associated with this inheritance concept. We have discussed about a super keyword when we discussed about static members of a class. So we cannot use this keyword as well as super keyword with static members. This is one of the restriction that we had when we were discussing about static members of a class. So there I told you that super is a keyword which we will be discussing when we discuss the concept of inheritance, right? So we need to discuss a lot of other topics, not just super keyword. We'll be discussing a topic called overriding. Earlier we have discussed overloading. Now, when inheritance is used, we'll come across a new topic called overriding. So we'll discuss all these topics along with inheritance. First, we'll see different ways of inheritance, that is in how many ways you can create subclasses, uh, and in which way you cannot create subclass, all these things. So several things we'll discuss. It will take at least 3 to 4 days for completing, uh, if time permits us, and if everything goes well, we can complete within 3 days. If it extends, it may extend beyond 3 days. It depends. It all depends on you and your understanding. Okay. So we'll continue from Monday by starting with inheritance concept. So just now I just introduced only what is inheritance today and what is access specifiers. So we'll discuss inheritance first and then come back to access specifiers and then later go to packet. So this is the course of action that we are going to take in the coming days. Fine. So for Monday, before I start, I told you to modify the programs, right? The multiplication and addition program. So you do that modification that way. Instead of using a predefined size for this arrays, use a dynamic size. Okay. So we'll meet on Monday. Yashwant.
Yes, sir. Okay, sir.
So you complete the task for Monday.
Okay, sir.